I love Peanuts comics. I love the dog, the burb, the one animators think is bald, the addict, glasses, York Peppermint Patty, the one newspaper editors in the 60s didn't like, the mean one, and Schroeder. I love them all, except Roy. I've recently taken it upon myself to watch all the Peanuts primetime TV specials. And for those of you that don't know, there are a lot more than you think. It's time to put on my serious media critic hat.
Why?
What?
Why?
By what?
When I was growing up, Peanuts TV specials were event television. CBS or ABC or whoever the fuck would advertise that they would be showing this cartoon that some guy in his basement drew before the moon landings. And recently, Apple TV did the same thing to advertise itself. Because people are gonna love paying $5 a month to watch Snoopy get body slammed by a folding chair once a year. You might have grown up watching a Charlie Brown Christmas, or It's the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown, or even one of the shit ones like It's the Easter Beagle Charlie Brown. How can you have an Easter special and not mention the meaning behind the holiday? Estra, the West Germanic goddess of spring. 0 out of 10, literally unwatchable. But did you know there's an Arbor Day Peanut special? What about the one where they go work on the ISS? Or Flashbeagle, the Flashdance Peanut special. These are the Peanut specials that fascinate me the most. The Peanut specials that are sort of lost to time. Even though these all aired on primetime TV, I doubt that most of you have heard of all of them. So I'd like to talk about those. This is a video about Peanut specials that haven't had staying power. This is a video about the Peanut specials time forgot. First, I needed a system, a scientific metric to determine the line between known Peanut specials and forgotten Peanut specials. After spending days locked in my science room, I was finally able to fabricate a flawless system. I made a list on Letterboxd and sorted it by popularity. Any special that falls below this line, which I call the Raskin line, I will consider forgotten. Jim Raskin is an animator who worked on some well-known films.
Mission failed. We'll get him next time.
And when he was in school, he and some buddies made a short called Bring Me the Head of Charlie Brown. This is basically a YouTube shitpost before YouTube existed.
So, what's the prevailing attitude, Charlie Brown?
I don't know, Linus. I feel like someone is out to get me.
If you're less well known than your underground cartoon parody from the 80s, I'm gonna say that you've been forgotten.
See you in hell.
At first I was just going to talk about these in a random order, then I thought it would be better to talk about them in the order they were released, which is how I watched them. Then I thought, hey, I should add some kind of utility to this video and order the Peanut specials in some kind of numbered list. And then I thought, if I'm ranking most of the Peanut specials already, I might as well rank the rest of them. And then I thought, no, I want this video to be 2 hours long, take 8 months to make, and be seen by less than 150 people.
Didn't think I'd do it, did ya?
Also, I know a lot of kids like Peanuts. This video isn't for them. I'm an adult and I'm going to be using adult words like shucks and darn. So if you're a parent and you just drop this in front of your kid in a bid to get them to shut up for 1 damn minute, turn this off. Also, you're a bad parent and your kid will grow up stupid if you let them watch YouTube all day. I should know, I'm responsible for a few cars in this train wreck. Now, let's get to all the lip smacks and bad child voice acting of the Peanuts. Number 35 is It Was My Best Birthday Ever, Charlie Brown. This is the absolute worst one, hands down, no contest. It's a fucking piece of shit. If you're gonna watch this trash, I hope you fucking like roller skating. Linus roller skates to a party. Yeah, so anyway, here's Wonderwall. Everyone's dancing, having a good time. Still no sign of a plot yet. Then it just ends. What the fuck was that? Then it cuts to later when Sally talks to Charlie Brown about it.
How was the party, Sally?
You were fucking there!
Anyway, I didn't even know where I was. Are you telling me it was somebody's birthday party?
She doesn't even know what that was. Oh fuck, more skating. It's the same skate cycle played over and over and over again. You see the same guy not moving in the background. These Peanut specials sometimes cut corners on production, but this one felt genuinely lazy. Maybe even the laziest. Linus is out roller skating, again, and he hears a girl singing. Drawn to it like the rollerblading pervert he technically is, he trespasses into someone's luxury manor estate where he meets a girl named Mimi. This is the worst animated Peanuts by far. So Linus meets Mimi and stares at her ass in the gardens. It's probably one of the longest, most boring sequences of nothing I've ever watched.
It was called digitalis. My grandmother took it after she got very sick. And now she's well again. Tomorrow, if it's sunny, I'll collect the rose hips and lavender for her.
Stop talking!
Why would your grandmother want that? Well,
Stop. Stop. Okay, I'm gonna put my fist in your mouth.
Okay.
Linus invites her to his birthday party.
Oh, I just love birthday parties.
Nobody believes him that this girl will come, let alone that she even exists. Given his propensity for waiting all night for the Great Pumpkin, you kind of get where they're coming from. Then she doesn't show up until the very end, where she sings at him from her 1939 DeVille, gives him a single rose, and then drives away. This one literally drove me to madness. I feel like this is the movie someone watches before they try to assassinate the president. Like, have I been brainwashed? Am I gonna get activated by the word roller skating?
Hey, what are you doing up in the middle of the night? Do you hear the music?
Number 34, You're in the Super Bowl, Charlie Brown. You're in the Super Bowl, Charlie Brown is about a halftime throwing punting contest where the winner gets a bike and tickets to the Super Bowl. You're not actually in the Super Bowl, so automatically the title is a lie. Charlie Brown and Linus start training, and while they do, they see this girl watching them.
My name is Melody.
Ah, fuck me.
Melody. That's beautiful.
Okay, this girl is gonna win the contest. Linus is in love with this girl.
Melody. I think you're the most beautiful little girl I've ever seen.
It's been literally 3 minutes. They compete in the contest, and the one interesting part of this is they announce all the kids, so we get to hear some of their full names for the first time. Franklin's last name is Armstrong. Peppermint Patty's real name is Patricia Leichhardt. Pigpen is a Packers fan, of course he is. This is the longest halftime thing ever. Don't these normally last like only 4 minutes? Linus is about to win the contest, but then they announce one final challenger.
And our last contestant, Miss Melody.
Huh?
The bicycle and the trip to the Super Bowl go to Miss Melody.
Of course. So she wins and Linus spazzes out.
I lost, Charlie Brown, I lost!
She also like rubs it in. Like they play it like she conned him.
Charlie Brown, I was in love with that girl.
She just showed up. Like, what was that? If you're wondering why the plot sounds so short, it's because it is. Between every act, it cuts to the AFL.
AFL, that's the Animal Football League.
Snoopy is coaching the Birds, a racially segregated team of Woodstock birds. And they absolutely dominate the league. That sign says NFL. You said AFL in the locker room. The league folded between them leaving the locker room and running out onto the field. They keep reusing the same animations over and over and over and over and over again. They really should racially integrate these teams. What the fuck? That was stripping!
There is just no stopping that bounding birdie.
They did not make this with the approval of the NFL and didn't realize how litigious the NFL is. So yeah, that's probably why you didn't see this growing up. After watching this though, I think the NFL did us a favor. The animation is incredibly lazy, the voice acting is bad, and the timing is way off.
I'll hold the ball and you come running up and kick it.
I can't believe you think I'm that stupid. Sure, I come running up to kick it, you pull it away, and I land on my back and kill myself.
Don't you trust me, Charlie Brown?
No.
It's like they had to add dead air between lines to stretch this anemic story to fit the time slot. But also the Birds only won with illegal plays.
Van Buren laterals to Coolidge, 2 laterals to Harding, and folks, there certainly is a lot of lateraling going on in this stadium today.
So this one is the second worst, only because I don't want to kill JFK after watching this. 33 is You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. To preface this, I love musicals. At least I thought I did until I saw this.
I can't stand it. I just can't stand it.
The only thing I remember is Lucy spreading her flat earther anti-vax bullshit.
Way up there, those little stars and planets make the rain that falls in showers.
Lucy, how can you say that? I'm sorry, but I just can't stand idly by and listen to you.
I didn't like the songs, I didn't like the plots, or lack thereof. I didn't like the absolute waste of my life this is. Here, I'll clip the funniest out-of-context line for you.
When I grow up, I'm gonna be the biggest queen there ever was.
There you go. You have now had a better experience with this than I have. But it wasn't as directly infuriating as the two below this. Snoopy's skeleton is fucking terrifying though. Number 32, it's Flashbeagle Charlie Brown. I love the IMDb trivia on this movie. This was inspired after Charles Schulz watched Flashdance. No shit. This one is the first one I actually had difficulty finding. I searched all the usual websites, but it wasn't anywhere. But unlike other specials that Paramount likes to scrub from the internet, they didn't seem to be selling a DVD for this special. Eventually, I did find a DVD that had all of the Emmy-nominated Peanut specials on it. Yes, the Flashdance parody was nominated for an Emmy, but I was at a crossroads. I wanted to watch Flashbeagle, but I also knew that if I put money down, I would be obligated to make a video about the Peanuts TV specials. Yeah, so here it is. The funny thing was that I eventually found it online too. Snoopy beats Peppermint Patty in football, then dances the Flashbeagle. The kids are in school. Peppermint Patty beats up Franklin and Marcy.
Ow! Ah!
A double hate crime against both the black community and the LGBT community. Then she takes everyone to do some 80s jazzercising and sings a terrible song about how stupid she is. Then they're at a party playing Simon Says.
Simon says, clap your hands. Simon says, okay.
And they sing about Pigpen. Then Snoopy puts on his 80s torn sweater and goes downtown. He sees Franklin breakdancing in front of, Franklin? Because I guess you weren't allowed to animate more than one black character in the Reagan years. Snoopy drags one of the Franklins to this 80s discotheque, and it's here that he transforms into the Flashbeagle. That sounds a lot dirtier than it really is, but somehow not dirty enough. It's terrible. Once the novelty of the title wears off, it's another boring musical with no plot. The one interesting tidbit about this movie is Sally is voiced by a young Fergie of the Black Eyed Peas. So if you're a journalist looking for some good clickbait, why not interview Fergie about her experience making a primetime Flashdance parody with Snoopy?
Flashbeagle! I can't stand it.
31 is Lucy Must Be Traded, Charlie Brown.
My pitcher's mound may be covered with snow, but the memories are still there.
Happy times, huh?
Some of my happiest memories.
Charlie Brown's baseball team is canonically terrible, and apparently Lucy is the only reason Charlie Brown's baseball team keeps losing.
It was the fault of my right fielder. It was always my right fielder.
Really, this is just Charlie Brown trying to scapegoat someone. So he tries to trade Lucy, no one wants her, then Peppermint Patty offers him Marcy for Lucy. They're both equally terrible, but they start actively ignoring their managers. Then they trade back, and no one learns anything, except for you, who should have learned not to watch this. 30 is It's the Pied Piper, Charlie Brown. I don't know what the goal here was. The special feels like the special where they gave up, and someone just said, let's just do Simpsons shit. So they tell us the story of the Pied Piper as played by Snoopy and the Peanuts cast. I don't really know what their end goal was here. I guess they just wanted to make something and didn't want to write anything. Huh. Can't relate to that at all. Anyway, they never tried again, so I guess this didn't pay off how they wanted. I'm realizing now that this Peanuts special is a metaphor for my entire YouTube career. The framing device is great for this, by the way. Sally gaslights Charlie Brown into reading to her.
You promised you'd read me a book or a story or something every night.
I don't remember.
Well, you did. You promised.
So it's the story of the Pied Piper, the town gets infested with rats, and the townsfolk demand the mayor does something. Seeing adults in Peanuts cartoons triggers me to no end.
Come on, Mayor, tell us what you're going to do about all these mice. Say something stupid, and we'll get it on the network tonight.
The guy, laments that he doesn't have the Pied Piper to help him out.
Does he know the Pied Piper or somebody like him? That's what I need. Whatever happened to the Pied Piper I used to read about?
Dude, you know how that story ended, right? Snoopy shows up and Charlie Brown, Esquire, negotiates a contract wherein the town will pay him a year's supply of dog food to get rid of the mice. Snoopy gets rid of the mice, but when he goes to collect, the mayor and his cronies refuse to give him a year of dog food. I know what you're wondering, and I literally did the math on this, even calculating based on the weight of an average beagle. It would cost less than $250 in 2000 for a year's supply of dog food. This motherfucker is grifting a child over $250. So Snoopy does what any self-respecting citizen does when the government screws him over. He orchestrates a coup. They made a better barbershop quartet than they did a government.
You were 16, my village queen, down by the old mill stream, the old mill stream.
29 is What a Nightmare, Charlie Brown. This is a weird one. You have Snoopy whipping Charlie Brown at the start. There's music that sounds like a Billy Joel song.
Bring out the bowls, sharpen the knife, get ready to cut a slice of life. Do-do-do-do-do-do.
Charlie Brown complains that Snoopy isn't a complete fucking maniac.
You're overly civilized, Snoopy. That's what's wrong with you. You're overly civilized.
Then we enter a bizarre dream sequence for the rest of the show. Snoopy gets press-ganged into joining the Iditarod. He cheats at cards, he goes feral and mauls the other sled dogs. Then they fall through the ice and everyone dies. So I guess the town doesn't get its diphtheria medication and all the kids die too. This is borderline experimental, and I imagine gave a lot of kids nightmares. According to some of the Letterboxd reviews, this fucked up a bunch of kids when they saw it. It kind of is a little terrifying. I mean, it is a nightmare. It's so tonally different from anything else any of the other Peanut specials did, and it really doesn't work. 28 is It's the Girl in the Red Truck, Charlie Brown. When I first saw this cover, I left it off my list because I genuinely thought it was a porn parody. But no, this is real. Charles Schulz wrote this. This special is currently living rent-free in my head. So much so that this section is going to be the bulk of the video. It's probably the weirdest special on this list. It's definitely the most ambitious, which makes it all the funnier when it falls flat on its stupid fucking face. I guess that is very Peanuts-like, very meta-Sparky. Schulz said he wanted this to be his Citizen Kane, by the way, and you're about to see why that's so hilarious. Despite the first 30 seconds of this special, or the title, this is not about Charlie Brown or the regular Peanuts gang. This is about Snoopy's brother Spike, who lives in a cactus in the desert and listens to the same French language tape over and over.
Oui, monsieur. C'est un chien. Yes, sir. That is a dog.
He's just happy to live in the desert. He has a real Uncle from Napoleon Dynamite energy.
I'm not going anywhere, Napoleon.
Get off my property!
The movie is framed as a letter Spike wrote to Snoopy about meeting the girl in the red truck when it breaks down outside his cactus. The woman is Jill Schulz, and yes, she is Charles Schulz's daughter. This is her big acting moment. And...
You poor little guy, you get yourself all dusty. Hey, which way are you going?
she's the worst actor who ever lived. But she is playing an alcoholic drunk driver.
Come on, hop in.
So I don't know, maybe it was intentional. She's like, let's make the plot happen, and takes Spike with her, really for no reason. Spike frames it romantically, but I don't think Jill Schulz is going to fuck this cartoon dog. She goes to this diner, where we meet my favorite character of the entire Peanuts cinematic universe, Molly the waitress.
Oh, now my life's complete.
Well, aren't you wondering how I know that?
Not really, but I bet you're gonna tell me.
This woman is just in a completely different movie. She's pining about leaving town for the big city.
There goes the bus to Phoenix. I should be on that bus.
I swear, when I first saw this, I thought she was gonna sing. She's constantly complaining about her deadbeat boyfriend that we never see. In this scene, you can really get a sense of how bad the animation is. They fuck up the perspective and shadow. Spike looks wrong in basically every scene. The worst is when they're playing Frisbee and he chases it into the lake in the most obvious cut I've ever seen.
Oh no! Spike! Spike, watch out! Oh no!
This came out just a few months before Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Jenny takes Spike home and just claims him as her dog. Molly at the diner knew who he was. He was a regular customer.
It's one of my best customers.
What level of agency is he expected to have? And then her boyfriend shows up from the city and is like, I got you a job as a dancer in a movie. And she's like, no, I want to stay out here in the fucking middle of nowhere desert.
Jenny, it's just a class. This is a movie with real dancing and real money. I don't see what the problem is.
You don't, do you?
Like what? She's like, all my friends are here. But we've already established that all of her friends fucking hate it here. And her boyfriend is jealous of Spike. Like, you think I'm exaggerating. It's genuinely framed as a romantic rivalry, but also as a platonic friendship. Like, he hates Spike, but he also will have a heartfelt conversation with him.
Come on, guys, break it up. Let's go roller skating. Let's go roller skating.
Roller skating. Must kill Lincoln.
Now it's time for some more goddamned roller skating. They go roller skating with Molly and her deadbeat fuck-up piece of shit boyfriend Daryl.
I got enough problems with Daryl.
who we never see because he doesn't show up. And this is where Jill actually kind of shines. It's clear that she can skate, which makes sense why they go to this hopping roller rink in the middle of the desert. Then Spike ends up outside the building. Jenny and Jeff go off looking for him.
Molly, we're trying to find Spike. Do you know where he went?
Well, maybe he ran off with Daryl. I can't find him either.
Like, Spike just walks away. He has no plans. He was just skating with Jenny, and he just leaves to join the world's worst band. No thoughts, just vibes. And then from out of nowhere, the third act shows up. Holy shit, it's like the opening of Saving Private Ryan. All these rednecks are driving around, shooting out their windows. Jenny sees this in the distance and says,
I think they're running a coyote hunt out there.
Yeah, so we're gonna make sure we stay out of their way, right?
What if that's where Spike went and then he's in the middle of it?
and yeah, he is, but she has no reason to believe this whatsoever. And Jeff is like, yeah, I'm about to get shot for this girl. They drive up behind a rock, Spike has taken cover, and then Jenny makes Jeff climb up the rock under fire to go rescue him.
Okay, I think I can make it.
It's like Hacksaw Ridge. It's insane. And then the rednecks are just like, oh shit, we gotta get out of here. And then they just flee into the night.
Hold your fire! Let's get out of here, quick!
They never even got out of their cars.
I think he's okay. It's probably not the first time somebody's taken a pot shot at him.
And instead of taking this to mean maybe the desert is too dangerous, I mean there's all these rednecks doing drive-by shootings, Jeff is like, well, I guess I'll leave my job as a record producer in LA to move out to the fucking desert. And Spike literally just walks out of the movie. And Jenny, who not 30 seconds ago risked her life and Jeff's life to go get him, says,
No, that's okay. Let him go.
what the fuck? I can't say that this is a masterpiece or that you should watch it, but it is a masterpiece and you should watch it. Grab this movie, shotgun 8 beers in your car, grab a friend and sit down and just have a great time with this movie.
Enjoy your dog biscuits. I'll be in the kitchen finishing up my popcorn.
The fact that this takes up 3 pages of notes when other specials are only about half a page should really show you how much this special has wormed its way into my brain. I'm conflicted because on one hand, I cannot recommend you watch this hour-long pile of garbage. But on the other hand, you've got to see this shit. You should buy this. Show up to your family Christmas and say, hey, let's watch a Peanuts movie. And then put this on and pretend like you don't know what they're talking about when they complain. I say you should buy this, but you probably can't buy it unless you get a used VHS for $150. I would burn DVDs of this and send it out for free if I thought I could get away with it. Maybe I'll make it a subscriber goal, like 10,000 subscribers, and I'll send you a copy of It's the Girl in the Red Truck, Charlie Brown. It truly is Schultz's Citizen Kane. Number 27, it's Arbor Day, Charlie Brown. Do you remember Arbor Day? No? Well, neither did this special. This is the one that kind of kicked off this idea of reviewing the less remembered Peanuts specials. I remember seeing this and thinking, yeah, I think I remember Arbor Day, but apparently no one in the Peanuts universe does. Sally's like, what the fuck is an arbor?
Oh, that's simple. That's the day when all the ships come sailing into the arbor.
Again, it's very loose with the plot. It starts with the kids learning about Arbor Day, then they decide to plant trees on Charlie Brown's baseball field, but instead of just trees, they plant crops, like for harvesting. That's not what Arbor Day is about. Like, they miss the point of the holiday. This is not conservation. Charlie Brown sees this and is apoplectic. Then Peppermint Patty's baseball team shows up and can't play in the dense undergrowth they've created. And the underdogs start to win.
Another victory for women's lib.
Basically, this special is a metaphor for Vietnam, where Charlie is hiding in the forest and the Americans can't beat him. Then the game gets rained out. The end. I think this is one of the weakest holiday specials, not just because they don't know what the fuck Arbor Day is, but because most of the show just focuses on a baseball game. This special did also introduce the character of Rerun. He's Linus and Lucy's little brother. I like him, but apparently a lot of people did not. I don't know what problem they had with him. He's basically not even a major character, he just rides past on his bike. I guess people just don't like changes to the status quo. Speaking of which, 26 is Snoopy's Getting Married, Charlie Brown. Snoopy is guarding Peppermint Patty's house, then he hears a bitch and he gets unbelievably horny. When he comes back, he's gotten engaged to another dog.
My dog is going to get married.
I never caught her name, so I'll just call her Kissy Suzuki.
Genevieve, so much fun.
I'm actually not sure we ever see her.
We went for a moonlight canoe ride, and we went to the movies.
And she also thinks that Citizen Kane is the best movie ever.
I really hope I'm not showing footage of her right now. Woodstock is pissed about losing his domestic life partner. This is the first chronological appearance of Snoopy's brother Spike. He comes into town to be the best man. The day of the wedding, Snoopy has cold feet. Charlie Brown is in morning dress with shorts. Fergie is voicing Sally in this one too, and she actually sings.
Oh, let me be the one to share your life.
Is this Fergie's very first paid singing performance? Congratulations, you sang for a dog wedding. The lazy resolution is that the bride runs off with a golden retriever. Clickbait title aside, this one's only a little bit better than Arbor Day, but at least I remember something from that special. The only thing I remember about this is Spike. I guess that qualified him to have his own hour-long special 3 years later. 25 is He's Your Dog, Charlie Brown. Just in case you thought I was only going to complain about specials made after 1970, here's one of the first ones ever made. Snoopy is running around pranking the other kids, except these aren't pranks. He just beats the shit out of people.
And 3 monster pictures.
Charlie Brown sends him back to the puppy farm to get trained. He really abdicated his responsibilities on that one. He sends him there unsupervised, and instead of going back, Snoopy goes to Peppermint Patty's house. When Charlie Brown tries to get him back, Snoopy punches him in the solar plexus. Holy shit, is he about to bludgeon Linus with that rock? Peppermint Patty eventually puts him to work, so he savagely attacks her and goes home to Charlie Brown. I don't know what the point of this one is. Snoopy is just a bastard. I really don't have sympathy for him just because Peppermint Patty was slightly overbearing. He was ready to beat Linus to death with that rock for absolutely no reason, just to satisfy his urge to kill. How come people got nightmares from the dog sled one, but not this? 24 is It's a Mystery, Charlie Brown. I was intrigued by the concept of this one. I thought a Peanuts Whodunit would have been something really fun to watch. Instead, the mystery it sets up is so obvious that I don't even feel bad about spoiling it. Sally stole Woodstock's nest, which is unusual because normally Woodstock only interacts with Snoopy. It's unusual to see another character directly addressing him. Snoopy dresses up as Sherlock Holmes and runs around terrorizing the town like that one episode of SpongeBob where he becomes the hall monitor. But then when they find the nest, it becomes the second half of every Law and Order episode, and they take Sally to court to prove their claim to Woodstock's nest.
The court finds in favor of the bird. Bird, it's your nest. Keep it.
I might have made that sound a lot more interesting than it really is. It really drags, even into the second half. Instead of watching this, just watch any episode of Law & Order, Special Beagle Unit.
All right, copper, it's your money or you get cement shoes.
23 is Life is a Circus, Charlie Brown. If there's one thing that we learned about Snoopy from the previous ones, it's that he's angry and he's horny. So Snoopy joins a circus chasing tail. Charlie Brown laments a little bit. Snoopy works for a girl who works for the Colonel. He wants Snoopy dyed pink with red food coloring. I'm not sure how that would work. Snoopy and Fifi try to run away from the circus. Then Fifi goes back. It is fully like a graduate moment. Anyway, this one was boring. Despite the premise of a circus coming to town, I think it really does waste its setting. We're entering the middling range of these specials. They get kind of boring for a bit here. So I'm gonna blow past some of these in less detail than you might expect based on that 20 minutes of talking about the girl in the red truck. This one won an Emmy, by the way. The only reason I mention that is to prove that industry awards are all bullshit and you should only trust serious critics, like me, to tell you what to think. 22 is Happiness is a Warm Blanket, Charlie Brown. So this is the only one I couldn't find online at the end of the day. I had to order a physical DVD. Luckily, they're basically giving these away, so it was only like $1. But that means I don't have any footage besides the trailer. So instead of playing clips from this movie in the background, I'm gonna play clips from Trainspotting, for no particular reason.
Heroin makes you constipated. The heroin from my last hit is fading away and the suppositories have yet to melt. I'm no longer constipated.
So the plot is that Linus is addicted to his blanket, and in a few days his grandma is going to come into town and destroy it. He spends some time trying to break his habit, and then when that doesn't work, he does what every addict does and tries to hide his behavior. Then he gets agitated as he goes through withdrawal.
I have hot and cold flashes. My eyes won't focus. I gotta have that blanket.
Eventually Lucy gets involved and buries it. Doesn't work. All the kids just get sick of Linus's shit.
You and that stupid blanket.
He basically tells them they all have an emotional crutch except for Charlie Brown, and no one should want to be like him.
Do you want to see me insecure? Do you want to see me end up like Charlie Brown?
Way to throw your best friend under the fucking bus, Linus. Eventually, Grandma Van Pelt comes to collect and Linus gives her a decoy blanket to destroy. The end. This special feels out of place. It is the first special not made by Bill Melendez, and you can really feel that some of that sincerity he brought to the animation was absent. It's kind of a hard quality to describe, but Melendez's animations were typically drawn by hand, and this was done digitally like every special after the Super Bowl one. It all looks a little too fast and fluid. There's a lot more sound effects too. You can tell the sound guys are really on their A game, which is really strange for a Peanuts special. Like, I didn't think that basic competence would be so foreign that it would alienate the special from the others, but here we are. I think a lot of the charm from the specials came from just how shoestring they were. Now that animation is a lot more accessible, a small team can pull off a pretty polished production. I think that causes these specials to lose that ineffable quality of roughness that make them so charming. The voice acting too has really developed over the years. This one is a lot more professional. Like, they could not find child voice actors in 1965.
As they say on TV, the mere fact that you realize you need help indicates that you are not too far gone.
In this one, Lucy sounds like she's 45 years old.
Well, as they say on TV, the mere fact that you realize you need help indicates that you are not too far gone.
Sally still sounds like shit, thank God.
You're my sweet babu.
I don't like this one very much. It feels very cut and paste. It didn't help that I was watching this after the other specials, so I noticed when they reuse bits from the previous specials or storylines. Half this movie is literally, line for line, play it again Charlie Brown. 21 is It Was a Short Summer Charlie Brown. In this one, they go to camp. That's basically it. Lucy signs them all up. For some reason, she has this authority.
I've signed everyone up for summer camp. Camp, everyone! There's to be no discussion and no need to thank me.
I feel like I've been drafted.
I don't know why whenever the boys travel anywhere, they always wear those white caps. Was that a thing in the 60s? The setup is pretty funny, but when they actually go to camp, it starts to fall apart. If I tried to describe it more, I would be here for 20 minutes because the plot changes every 30 seconds. They're swimming, now they're making their beds, then they're challenging the girls to arm wrestling. It's very unfocused, it struggles to tell a story, kind of like me. The dialogue is very awkward and stilted in that way comics are sometimes written.
Do you know why English teachers go to college for 4 years?
No, I don't know why English teachers go to college for 4 years.
Well, then I'll tell you why English teachers go to college for 4 years.
Overall, I would describe this one as rough. I would say this is where they start to lose the narrative thread and the specials just become a series of 4-panel plots. I think there are a lot of good nuggets of ideas in here, and I'm not sure, but I think this is where some of Race for Your Life Charlie Brown came from.
We're gonna win this canoe race, Snoopy, or we're gonna die trying.
But maybe it's just because they go to camp and there's a boy-girl rivalry. I would say you could skip this one. Which is strange because Schultz said one of the funniest things Bill Melendez ever animated was that arm wrestling scene. 20 is Someday You'll Find Her, Charlie Brown. This is definitely the most bizarre Peanuts special. I know what you're thinking. What about the girl in the red truck or Flashbeagle? No, it's this one. Someday You'll Find Her, Charlie Brown is the strangest thing I've ever seen. Charlie Brown is watching the Browns lose when the camera pans to the crowd for a fucking instant, and he falls in love with a girl that he's seen for literally 2 seconds.
The camera was on the crowd, and it zoomed into a honey shot. And the camera stopped on a face, Linus. I've fallen in love.
So they're going to be saying the words honey shot and little girl in the same sentence a lot, and it's never not weird. Charlie Brown is completely infatuated with this girl.
That beautiful little girl. I can't get her off my mind.
He's so obsessed that he goes to the fucking stadium. Linus goes with him.
That's right. That's it. That's where she was sitting. Now smile.
Linus is genuinely going along with it.
It was a honey shot. The camera was on her for just 2 seconds. But I saw her and I fell in love.
Dear fucking God. So Charlie Brown may be obsessed with this girl to the point beyond all reason that he's willing to hunt her down, but that doesn't mean he's gonna stop being a coward about it.
You go in, Linus. You find out who she is.
So whenever he wants to talk to anyone about this, he sends Linus in. The stadium doesn't know shit because of course they don't, but they send him to the main office.
Charlie Brown, he says it's very difficult to find out who was in those seats. It was a big game and it could be anybody.
Thank you, Linus, for putting a stop to this.
But I have the address of the family who has these seats.
Fuck, Linus, stop this madness. At least perverts will directly message someone. And who is the adult facilitating this?
Is this the girl, Charlie Brown? No! This girl says that she didn't go to the game, Charlie Brown. It was her cousin from out of town who went.
How in the world are we going to find this cousin?
Well, I have her address here, Charlie Brown.
How the fuck did you get that address? They keep going to addresses and Charlie Brown keeps sending Linus to talk to the girls for him until eventually they have to go out to the sticks and Charlie Brown is about to give up.
Maybe we should forget the whole thing.
Thank God.
Nope, she gave me an address.
No, Linus, you bastard! You're supposed to be the reasonable one! So they go out to the country, Snoopy and Woodstock are just there. Then Charlie Brown sends Linus up to the door again, and...
Yes?
She has a fucking blanket. Linus falls in love with her, and Charlie Brown gets cucked by his best friend. I have never screamed louder at my TV by myself than I did watching this. And this is the point where I would like to introduce you all to Incel Charlie Brown.
Nobody listens! I've been waiting! I saw her first! You were supposed to tell the little girl about me! Instead, all you did was...
I'm madly in love with Mary Jo.
Oh, you even know her name! Ah!
This special is an absolute fucking roller coaster. Holy shit. It's probably one of the most cringeworthy things I've ever seen.
If she wants my phone number, give it to her. Let her know how I feel about her. But be very sly. Perhaps suggest inviting me in for cookies.
But all the cringe is intentional setup for a joke that pays off massively at the end. I don't think I've ever turned around faster from hating a piece of media to absolutely loving it.
Give it to her.
19 is What Have We Learned, Charlie Brown? This one is a direct sequel to Bon Voyage, Charlie Brown. Charlie Brown, Linus, Peppermint Patty, Marcy, Snoopy, and Woodstock are all in France, and like a Dunkirk evacuee, they need to get back to England as soon as possible. But instead they get lost, Snoopy crashes the car, they lease another car from a senile old lady.
We would like to trade in our slightly disarranged car for one that is less disarranged.
Who will drive it?
Snoopy has been doing our driving. As you can see, he's a World War I flying ace.
My word! He surely can drive one of our cars.
It's okay, I don't care about her because she's French. Then they sleep outside at the beach for no reason. Linus wakes up and realizes that they're at Omaha Beach, and he has flashbacks to a war that he never fought in. He wakes up the gang to tell them all about D-Day at 3 in the morning. I'm a history buff, but I would tell Linus to fuck off. There's actually some good history here. Linus explains the Mulberry Harbors and elaborates on D-Day as a logistical feat. They stand there blank-eyed listening to Eisenhower stumble over his words.
I think and hope, pray, that the humanity will learn more than we have learned up to that time. We must find some way to work to peace and to gain an eternal peace for this world.
Then Linus talks about the bodies that stacked up like cordwood clogging the harbors as they show us actual D-Day combat footage. I think this is the only Peanut special that shows us people actually dying, but it's rotoscope, so I guess that's okay for primetime. Charles Schultz served in France in World War II. I would imagine this was something that was special to Schultz and potentially other people on the production staff. It really does feel like trying to pay respect to the people involved. But then they veer off on Tangent Street up to Ypres, where Linus lectures them about World War I, an entirely different beast to World War II. But I guess they figured they'd try for a twofer while they were in France. But the message of World War I is that war is terrible and you shouldn't do it. The lesson of World War II is
killing Nazis.
I can't help but feel this would have been better if you'd picked one to focus on. 18 is It's Your First Kiss, Charlie Brown. This is one of the later specials involving Charlie Brown's crush on the little red-haired girl, and it's the one where he seals the deal. Before we continue, I want you to picture this. The year is 1977. Just a few months ago, you saw Star Wars, and now you get to watch Snoopy become a helicopter. Charlie Brown and Linus are on a float in a homecoming parade. What grade are they in again? Then Charlie Brown realizes that the little red-haired girl is the homecoming queen.
Linus, that girl!
Linus immediately outs her name.
You mean Heather?
Linus knew her name the entire time. He also says that Charlie Brown is her escort to the homecoming dance and that he's expected to kiss her.
And before the first dance begins, you have to give the queen a kiss.
How old are these kids? What kind of fucked up school are these people running? At the football game, Charlie Brown is the place kicker and Lucy is the holder. Wait, the homecoming queen's escort isn't the quarterback, it's the place kicker? Is it because Peppermint Patty is the quarterback? That's homophobic. Charlie Brown keeps missing field goals because Lucy keeps pulling the ball away. What kind of coach would keep this lineup? For some reason, they keep blaming Charlie Brown for this.
The only weakness I can see is our kicking game.
What the fuck? So then he goes to the homecoming dance. It's like some weird kid's fantasy like, oh, you have to kiss her, bro. That's the law. So he does, and he has a brain aneurysm and wakes up in his bed. Like at first I thought, like, oh, that was a dream. Like he got a concussion at the football game and his CTE caused him to hallucinate kissing Heather. But no, Linus confirms that he did it. In fact, he did a lot more than just that.
After you gave Heather that long, passionate kiss, you really swept her off her feet. Then you even danced with all the princesses.
The excitement just made him black out. The really weird thing about this special, besides the Snoopy copter, is that we learned the little red-haired girl's name is Heather, which does not come up again. They always call her the little red-haired girl. The only exception I came across is when Charlie Brown was directly screaming at her in the New Year's special.
You're Heather, aren't you? Please come in. Charlie Brown told me he had invited you to the party. I don't know where Charlie Brown is right now, but would you like to dance?
Ah, Linus cucked him here too.
I don't understand this escort business, Linus.
17 is Snoopy the Musical. I had to watch a VHS rip of this. The Paramount title screen triggered an insane amount of nostalgia. I want to pretend that didn't affect my ranking, but honestly, it was just something that triggered something in me, which is more than a lot of these did. I think the songs are a lot better in this too. I think Snoopy usually works better as a mime, but I like his last song after he becomes head beagle for no reason. Is there some sort of racial beagle hierarchy? They still don't have any idea what the plot is, but the songs are catchy enough that I didn't mind it as much. It's like watching Pink Floyd's The Wall. Why yes, I did just compare Snoopy the Musical to Pink Floyd's The Wall. I will not be taking questions. But there was one part that made me cringe so hard I felt my soul leave my body and explode in the upper ionosphere.
But I'd like the kind of girl who would call me poor sweet baby.
Poor sweet baby. Poor sweet baby. Show me where it hurts. I'll tell you how to make it well.
I just, like, you know what? I'm dropping this one. This is the worst. They also reuse animation from It's Your First Kiss, Charlie Brown, which proves to me that even the creators knew their specials were being forgotten. But they brought me back to life with this intense sax man. I love it. You know what, just for this guy, I'm bumping you back up. This one feels a lot more produced than the previous ones. If I didn't know about them reusing footage, I would say more man hours went into this, but they did reuse footage. So I can safely say that these are the laziest animators since every other animation team ever. 16 is Snoopy's Reunion. I don't have a lot to say about this one, at least in terms of the conflict. Snoopy and his family have a reunion and then they go home. We do get to meet Snoopy's other siblings. There's Fat Snoopy, Girl Snoopy, Other Girl Snoopy, Brown Snoopy, Spotted Snoopy, Fluffy Snoopy, and Spike. We also do see their childhood where the puppies are all adopted. Wait, if Spike got picked up by a family, why does he live alone in the desert? Also, why weren't any of Snoopy's other siblings invited to the wedding? That's really all there is to say about this one. This is the PH7 of Peanut specials. It's as basic as it gets. I know those two statements are in conflict. 15 is It's Spring Training, Charlie Brown. The plot of this one is that a little kid named Leland wants to try out for Charlie Brown's baseball team. While this is going on, Charlie Brown makes a deal with the owner of a hardware store, Mr. Hennessy, where Mr. Hennessy will buy the team uniforms if they win one game.
Yeah, boy, if we had new uniforms like that, we could really play ball.
This is a pretty digestible plot for young kids. The concept of doing a thing to get a reward is a plot that tracks a lot better than lose a football game and make out with your crush because ? Sorry, bro, that's the law. You gotta kiss her. Wish you didn't have to, but you do. You gotta make out with your crush now, sorry.
Is it baseball season yet?
If I didn't know better, I would think this is an episode of a generic mid-90s kids show. This is also unusual for a Peanut special because they win. They win a game with Leland's play, and they get their uniforms. They accomplish what they set out to do. Maybe it was Franklin's epic rap that psyched their opponents out.
It's all about all the cars you jump and shaking in your shoes. We're the team invincible, and we're not gonna lose. It's time you started worrying your strategies in a muddle. If you're a little airplane, we're the space shuttle. You can jeer all you want, vocalize and shout, but in the end we will prevail, cause that's what it's all about.
I'm making you watch this so that you always remember that the 90s was a terrible time. 14 is There's No Time for Love, Charlie Brown.
By the time we grow up, the metric system will probably be official.
I have no idea if this line has aged really poorly or extremely well, because on the surface it's aged poorly. The metric system has never and probably will not be implemented widely in the US anytime soon. But also, Peanuts characters never grow up. Charlie Brown and Peppermint Patty are still running around doing the same shtick in 2021. I have been unable to sleep for weeks because I'm trying to decide if this is the most brilliant meta joke ever written or a complete accident. And I'll never know because everyone involved in the production of this is dead. I realized at this point that this special was probably ripped straight from the comics. This setup feels a lot like a 4-panel comic. Fast scene transitions, constant cutting to seemingly random locations. It's like reading a comic strip at 60 miles an hour. The first half of this special is just 4-panel plots. There are a few nuggets in the beginning, like the line about the metric system that fucked me up, but other than that, I was about to write this special off. Then about halfway through, the plot kicks in. Everyone goes to a museum except Charlie Brown, Sally, Peppermint Patty, and Marcy go into a supermarket by accident. Peppermint Patty decides to just lie down in the middle of the aisle for no fucking reason, and Charlie Brown just abandons her there. When she wakes up, she starts talking shit about Charlie Brown, but he was standing right behind her the entire time. He leaves feeling bad, and Peppermint Patty feels kinda bad. She invites him over to work on their essays about the museum together. Then after he walks Marcy home, she kisses him goodnight.
If you don't want that to be from me, Chuck, think of it as being a good night kiss from Peppermint Patty, because I think she likes you.
I do think that's kinda cute. Charlie Brown gets an A on his paper because his teacher is an idiot who can't keep track of her students, and she realizes that she gotta bribe him with an A. And Peppermint Patty apologizes to Charlie Brown. And you do get the sense that she does like him, she just doesn't really know how to communicate with him because she's just a kid. She doesn't have the emotional maturity.
It's not easy for a girl to talk like this to a boy, you know.
I like that as a theme. 13 is You're in Love, Charlie Brown. This is the first chronological instance of Charlie Brown falling in love with a little red-haired girl.
Did you see that little red-haired girl on the bus? Why can't I at least have lunch with that little red-haired girl?
I think that this kind of plot can either come off as really creepy or really charming, depending on how you play it.
I'll bet her hands are real soft and cool.
That's the most disturbing thing I've clipped from these specials. Basically, there are only a couple of days left in school, or he'll have to wait until next year to tell her he has a crush on her. Or you could just do what I did and never tell anyone. That's also healthy. This is also the first appearance of Peppermint Patty in a special. She gets confused about who has a crush on who and accidentally sets Charlie Brown up on a date with Lucy. Say what you want about Peppermint Patty, but she takes big swings. She doesn't know what she's swinging at, but she swings big. At the very end of it, Charlie Brown has to race to school. He climbs over the fence like a fucking lizard. This haunts my dreams. In the end, he hasn't told the girl how he feels. He's waiting for the bus, but then...
Oh, rats! I like you, Charlie Brown. Sign, Little Red-Haired Girl.
She palmed in that note like a fucking spy. But this leaves us with two big questions. What kind of scumbag bus driver leaves a kid at the bus stop? Also, why the fuck does she sign her name as the little red-haired girl? Surely it would be Heather. This is gonna sound really strange, but I think the reason they avoid giving her a name is to avoid humanizing her. If she's not a character, she's just an object for Charlie Brown to pine for, like winning a baseball game or kicking a football. She has no agency in this at all, therefore we can only blame Charlie Brown for his failure to date her. And it's not creepy when he talks about her skin. I think the Peanuts movie does a little better at making this charming instead of creepy. I think this is the most agency we see her having, though. She supposedly does palm Charlie Brown that note. I guess that's what makes this crush so childlike. Like when you're a kid, you may recognize you have feelings of attraction for someone, but not really know what that means or what to do about it. At least that's how I felt. Then again, I knew people who were dating their future fiance in middle school. Wait, am I just a dork? He asked himself as he sat there talking about forgotten Peanut specials. And for making me question my entire life, this special earns the number 13 slot because it's fucking cursed. 12 is This Goodbye, Charlie Brown? Linus and Lucy are moving to a new town because their dad got a job. A lot of this special is seeing the other characters react to that news. Is that the Rosebud sled? Is this Schultz's Citizen Kane now? What the fuck was that about? Charlie Brown is sad, but he understands why it's happening and wishes his friend the best in his new life. Schroeder straight up does not believe Lucy because he thinks this is another ploy for attention. That's a completely valid concern, but Charlie Brown fucking blasts him for it.
You never liked Lucy anyway. You were always picking on her.
But I don't understand.
Oh, stop making excuses. Go on home and play your old Beethoven.
The fuck, Charlie Brown? After all those times Lucy tricked you into breaking your spine? Sally, on the other hand, goes full QAnon. She goes completely delusional and thinks that Linus is going to take her out on a date, even after he moves away. So she sits on her porch for a week waiting for JFK Jr. to come back to life and declare Trump president. And in the end, obviously they come back to town. You can't have a permanent change like this to a floating timeline.
Don't people ever progress around here?
But it's pretty hastily concluded. I think it's supposed to read as their dad decided he didn't want to move, but what they say is Lucy complained so much they moved back to appease her. In which case, stellar parenting. Fucking can't do shit without your 10-year-old signing off on it. We're pretty solidly in that mid-range of these are basically fine. There's nothing particularly offensive about this, but it also doesn't reach the heights of the other specials. 11 is A Charlie Brown Celebration. This is another series of vignettes lifted right from the comics. I think this one's better than most. It starts with Schultz kind of easing you into it.
It's important to have a change of pace to keep the reader's interest.
Peppermint Patty accidentally enrolls in a dog obedience school instead of private school, and Marcy just says,
"Here, sir." What?
Marcy is completely fucking savage. Snoopy's also a helicopter again. I guess this is something he just kind of does from time to time. The most interesting story is the last one. Charlie Brown gets sick with unspecified disease and checks himself into the ER. The nurse is like, "Where are your parents?" And Charlie Brown straight up is like, "They do not give a shit about me." But it turns out that Lucy does give a shit about Charlie Brown and promises God that if he gets better, she will never pull the football away again. And Charlie Brown shows up to fucking collect.
Charlie Brown, you're back. You're well. I heard something about a promise. Oh, good grief.
But after years of humiliation, something inside him snaps.
Ow!
10 is She's a Good Skate, Charlie Brown. That title makes no fucking sense. In this one, Peppermint Patty wants to win a figure skating competition, so she does that. The end. 9 is You're a Good Sport, Charlie Brown. I remember nothing about this. Charlie Brown is doing something, then there's a motocross race. Charlie Brown wrecks off screen and ends up at the vet. Then he comes back and finishes the race where the prize is a haircut.
We couldn't get you the Pro Bowl tickets, Charles, so we got you 5 free haircuts.
But my dad's a barber, and besides, I don't have much hair to cut.
There you have it, fans. A dramatic coincidence.
It's fine, I like this a little better than the skating one, but this one is one of the few to actually win an Emmy, so what do I know? Yeah, so number 9. 8 is You're the Greatest, Charlie Brown.
You might be the next Bruce Jenner.
In this one, Charlie Brown enters the Decathlon in the school Junior Olympics. No one thinks he can do it, and of course they're right, but Marcy is very supportive.
Great form, Charles. I'm sure you'll put it out of the park.
Because Marcy in these specials is an idiot. Eventually, she gets drafted too, and actually wins the decathlon. There's this one dick jock that's a full head and shoulders taller than everyone else. Like, I'm calling shenanigans. That dude is way overage to be in the Junior Olympics, but he still gets beat by Marcy, and damn near comes close to losing to Charlie Brown. So I guess he wouldn't hack it in the real Olympics either. In the end, there's not a lot to say about this one because it's very straightforward, like the skating one. There's not a lot of funny stuff to talk about, except for this one retroactively hilarious line.
They'll treat me like Bruce Jenner.
7 is Play It Again, Charlie Brown. This one is a very Schroeder-centric special. I haven't talked a lot about Schroeder so far, and you're about to see why, because as we move higher up the list, I will talk more about Schroeder. There are only 3 things you need to know about Schroeder. 1, he plays the piano. 2, he loves Beethoven. And 3, he's based. Schroeder is the most based Peanuts character. I genuinely think he might be my favorite, next to Molly. Schroeder can also be really savage. I think my favorite example is in Be My Valentine, Charlie Brown, where he completely destroys the girls who try to give Charlie Brown a used Valentine's Day card the day after because they feel bad.
You and your friends are the most thoughtless bunch I've ever known. You don't care anything about Charlie Brown. You just hate to feel guilty. And now you have the nerve to come around one day later and offer him a used Valentine just to ease your conscience. Well, let me tell you something. Charlie Brown doesn't need your... Don't listen to him. I'll take it. I guess I let Schroeder down.
I love Schroeder. He's also not a sellout, something he makes very clear in this special. Lucy wants to prove her love for Schroeder, and Peppermint Patty needs to find a musician to play a PTA meeting. What kind of bougie-ass PTA meeting needs live music? Lucy gets Schroeder the gig, for which he's grateful, but then Peppermint Patty says he can't play Beethoven, for which the PTA is grateful. Then Charlie Brown and Pigpen come out with instruments and just start shredding, but Schroeder isn't willing to expand his musical repertoire, so he quits. And then Lucy resolves the plot by spraying a PTA meeting in a can.
Ladies, the meeting of the Coffee Lane School PTA will please come to order.
PTA programs also come in spray cans.
Entertains a motion to dispense with the minutes of the last meeting.
I don't know how to unpack this, so I'm just not going to. I don't know why I like this one as much as I did. I think it's because I like Schroeder. I relate with his artist's sense of entitlement.
Schroeder, do piano players make a lot of money?
Money? Who cares about money? This is art. This is great music I'm playing. And playing great music is an art. Do you hear me? An art. Art, 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 art.
I also like that he just does not give a fuck.
I can't stand it.
I think that he and Lucy are a fun pair to watch too.
Ugh! I've been kissed by a girl. Ugh! I've been poisoned.
Most of their interactions in this were just repeated verbatim in Happiness is a Warm Blanket, Charlie Brown, but this special doesn't lose points for that. That one does. 6 is It's Magic, Charlie Brown. Charlie Brown wants Snoopy to get a job and apply himself, so he becomes a magician, because when I think of success, I think amateur magician.
Fake! Fake! That's no rabbit! Fake!
Who's this fucking kid heckling the amateur dog magician? Snoopy just keeps beating the shit out of him. He impales Franklin, dismembers Peppermint Patty, and turns Charlie Brown invisible. But all this black magic makes God cry, and everyone leaves. So now Charlie Brown is stuck being invisible. The special then becomes the plot of The Invisible Man, and Charlie Brown runs around getting revenge on his enemies. He actually kicks the football!
What's the matter? Did you lose something? Is this yours? Ha 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 ha.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Lucy is like, you must cure this man.
Now you start figuring out how to make him visible again, or I'll pound you.
So Snoopy makes something in his meth lab that gives him magic hands, and he turns Charlie Brown visible just in time for Lucy to pull the football away. I know that sounds like the stupidest thing ever, but it works. Then at the end, Snoopy levitates Lucy and leaves her for dead. Okay, the end. 5 is Why, Charlie Brown, Why? This one was made right after The Girl in the Red Truck. After Charles Schulz's Citizen Kane didn't quite pan out, he thought that this might be his magnum opus, a reserved, understated children's movie about cancer. I think it's really telling that, presumably right after he saw the final cut of The Girl in the Red Truck, Schulz thought, oh fuck, we better teach everyone who saw this about cancer. You better enjoy that joke, by the way, because we are not going to have any fun for the next 5 minutes. We meet a new girl named Janice. Boy, I sure hope nothing bad happens to her. She keeps getting bruises. Boy, I sure hope nothing bad is happening to her. Oh, she has a fever now. I really hope nothing bad happens to her.
I don't feel so well today.
She's out of school for a few days, and Linus and Charlie Brown go to visit her at the hospital. Janice tells them that she has leukemia, and she walks them through the process of diagnosing it. You can tell that this was made to educate children about cancer and the kinds of things they might go through. She tells them that she's determined to get better so she can play on the swings.
You get well, Janice, and I'll push you on those swings forever.
Linus takes on the central role in this episode, which is a lot more appropriate for educational purposes instead of Charlie Brown riffing.
Are you going to die? Good grief, Charlie Brown.
There's a point where a bully taunts Janice for losing her hair, and Linus goes sicko mode.
Janice has got leukemia, cementhead!
I think that's pretty in character. Eventually, Janice returns to school where she plays on the swings with Linus again and reveals her hair has grown back, implying that she beat cancer. My only question is, why am I crying? This one really got to me. It definitely affected me the most emotionally out of any of the Peanut specials. I don't know how much of that is actually the special and how much is me projecting from my own personal relationships with people who have had cancer. But yes, this one is definitely a good one. I don't know if it's the best teaching tool because it's so emotionally impactful. I think you would want to present the information a bit more dryly to kids, but I'm not a child educator, and the American Cancer Society did work with them to make this. So yeah. Okay, serious time is over, so here's a funny out of context line I clipped.
I'll give you a good ride.
4 is He's a Bully, Charlie Brown. The year is 2006, and the Peanuts have finally invented plot again. Charlie Brown is going to camp, still with a fucking white hat. Meanwhile, Rerun finds some marbles in the attic. This marble thing triggered some kind of memory? I can't remember if I was flashing back to seeing this before, or if it was an episode of Arthur.
Aww.
Charlie Brown, Marcy, and Rerun independently go to camp, while Peppermint Patty has to go to summer school.
Why
am I so dumb?
The camp bully is already waiting at the gates to start bullying everyone. You have to admire the dedication of a man who shows up early to camp just to get the most out of his bullying. Snoopy immediately asserts his dominance.
Hey, look everybody! This kid brought a bowling ball to camp. What are you gonna do with the bowling ball, kid? Ah!
The bully, Joe Agate, is played by Taylor Lautner.
Whoa, that shooter is enormous.
So if you want, you can pretend this is a Twilight prequel where Jacob gets his wolf powers. Eventually, Marcy, cajoles Peppermint Patty into coming to camp by feigning a romance with Charlie Brown.
Don't stand so close, Charles, and you're squeezing my hand too hard. Charles, I can't hear what she's saying if you keep nibbling on my ear.
Whoa, that shooter is enormous.
Does Charlie Brown kind of pull? Joe is hustling kids at marbles of all fucking things, and eventually I don't want to say hustles because that's not technically true. He teaches Rerun how to play marbles and then wins and takes all of his marbles. This is an affront of the highest order. Such an offense requires the most severe of responses. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my highest honor to introduce Chad Charlie Brown. So he decides he's gonna win the marbles back instead of telling an adult, because he's a Chad now. But no, he's really more like a Chad in training. So he goes to Joe Cool, who's not just a marbles teacher, he's a marbles scientist. And there can only be one guy named Joe at this camp. Joe trains him in his Sigma male grind set. He masters the game of marbles and challenges Taylor Lautner.
Whoa, that shooter is enormous. I kinda like the way it feels.
And Charlie Brown doesn't just dominate. He deploys a tactical nuke of marbles mastery.
Cool Thumb Brown, just a stranger passing through.
And then like the absolute Sigma Chad he is, he doesn't take all of Joe's marbles. King shit. Also, Marcy is implied to be beating the shit out of Joe off screen.
I pushed them into the poison oak. Sleep well, sir.
This came out in 2006, and it was the last Peanut special to be produced by Bill Melendez. I really do just want to take a second to recognize this man, and not just for the mustache. He really is responsible for the way these specials feel. I've already mentioned how the special after this, Blanket Spotting, seems a little off compared to the rest of them. I do think that the ineffable feeling of sincerity that defined the Peanut specials went away with him. 3 is It's an Adventure, Charlie Brown. This one's kinda great. You might say it's an anthology of the Peanuts' greatest hits from the comics. Charlie Brown's anxiety is making him hallucinate the sun is a baseball, and he gets a weird rash, so he puts a bag on his head and goes to camp.
For someone who hates going to camp, I sure spend a lot of time there.
Where he becomes the president.
Yeah, good going, Zach. You've just been elected camp president.
After a while, he feels better, so he goes outside to look at the sun.
The sun is coming up. I can't look. I can't stand the suspense. But I have to look. I have to know. Will I see the sun? Or will I see a baseball? What will I see? Good grief.
This special also has the line that I laughed the hardest at in any of these specials. Charlie Brown commits a hate crime against a tree for eating his kite.
Didn't think I'd do it, did ya?
And the EPA is prosecuting his ass.
The Environmental Protection Agency?
So he flees and becomes a fugitive from the law. He's living out of a box, he's coaching a baseball team under an assumed name.
Charles?
Then at the end, Linus finds him after weeks of presumably not looking and tells him that he's in the clear because the witness mysteriously died.
You should come home, Charlie Brown. That kite-eating tree fell over during the storm. The Environmental Protection Agency has no evidence against you.
I would highly recommend this, but I have a feeling that when you do watch it, you'll say, why the fuck did Big Beak recommend this at number 3? Well, I recommended The Red Truck at 28. It's definitely the best anthology special. It keeps in line with the original tone of the comics, but the timing of the voice acting is what really puts it over the top for me. I think that's what the current Peanut specials really miss. Shitty child voice acting.
Good morning, Charles. I brought you some cold cereal.
Thank you, Milo. That was very nice of you.
You better eat it fast, Charles. The milk is running through my fingers.
I'm not sure if I like this because it's so stupid it's amazing, or if I like it because I've never laughed harder at one of these. So let's split the difference and say I laughed at this because it's so stupid. I would recommend the sack one and the tree one. I don't think I would recommend the others. I also don't know if watching all of these in a row desensitized me to the absence of a plot. By binging these back to back, I definitely was not consuming them the way they were meant to be. If I just stumbled across this on TV, I probably would have tuned out, but fuck it. That tree line killed me too hard for this to not be number 3.
The Environmental Protection Agency has no evidence against you.
2 is You're Not Elected, Charlie Brown. I genuinely really love this one. Once again, they've invented plot. Charlie Brown is thinking about running for class president, then Lucy is like, no, Charlie Brown, America isn't ready for its first bald president. Linus, on the other hand, is polling with 99% of the vote due to voter intimidation.
Linus all the way!
This is some Kazakhstan shit. So Linus runs against this kid we've never seen before, Russell. I've looked it up, I don't think the actor is famous now, so they lose some points there. Lucy becomes the campaign manager, Charlie Brown becomes the press secretary, I guess? Then instead of hiring someone who can speak and write in English, he hires Snoopy and lets him hire Woodstock. Fucking cronyism. They go about the business of the election. For some reason, they have multiple full school assemblies where candidates give rally speeches together. Russell gives his speech.
I know the human being and fish can coexist peacefully.
Then Linus gets up there and starts screaming about purges.
I'm elected student body president. I will purge the kingdom. My administration will release us from our spiritual Babylon. My administration will bring down the false idols in high places.
It's insane.
We are in the midst of a moral decline.
Linus is winning with 99% of the vote.
We've got it cold, Charlie Brown.
And then at the last rally before the election, he drops an October surprise.
I decided to say a few words about the Great Pumpkin.
So yeah, now people know Linus is a pseudo-religious whack job, and he falls to 50%. He still wins though after Russell votes for him. Wait, Charlie Brown worked on his campaign. Why is he the one who's allowed to count the ballots? I'm with Trump on this. There's some bullshit going on here. Then Linus goes to talk to the principal, who tells him that his position is completely meaningless. The moral of the story is, all the voter fraud in the world doesn't matter to the deep state. Before we talk about number 1, I want to give a couple of honorable mentions, because I want this video to be even longer. First, what kind of gaming YouTube content creator would I be if I didn't mention Snoopy, the cool computer game? Yes, that's actually what it's called. It's a game for whatever piece of shit console existed in 1989. I was a bit surprised that this was one of the only video games I could find. Peanuts is a venerable property with a long history, and I would think some company would try to license it at some point. There are a couple of those tokens Snoopy plays a random sport games, but I don't really count those. Those games aren't about Peanuts, it's just the aesthetics grafted over any other tennis game on the market. I was able to find a copy of this game online, and based on the reviews and comments I read, it's no wonder there hasn't been another Peanuts tie-in game. Even its own write-up was roasting it. Overall, I doubt even die-hard Peanuts fans will be motivated enough to play the game for more than a few minutes, let alone finishing it. But I am a die-hard Peanuts fan, and I decided that my subscribers were worth finishing this game for, no matter how bad. Then I actually started playing this game, and it turns out, no, you guys are not worth it. It's from that really early school of adventure games where there was no direction, just 30 objects you needed to click on and put somewhere else for something to happen. There's no indication as to what these objects are, do, or interact with. Is this just supposed to be a jar of dirt? It also didn't help that apparently it was in Japanese. It's also from before LucasArts invented plot in adventure games. But it is a Peanuts game, so maybe that was part of the intended experience. So yeah, I could not get literally 5 minutes into this game, and after watching a playthrough on 2x speed, I think we were all spared. The next honorable mention is Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown.
Free as running water, fresh as morning dew. No matter who's the winner, if you try, we're behind you, Charlie Brown.
This one is a theatrical Peanuts movie, and it's above the Raskin line, but I wanted to mention it anyway because this is my favorite piece of Peanuts media, and I don't think it gets enough mainstream recognition. Charlie Brown and co. go to camp and participate in a multi-day river raft race against some generic bullies.
We're number one! We're number one! Yay!
It's a fun adventure movie, there are actual stakes, the kids are in real danger. Charlie Brown learns about leadership. Once again, Peanuts proves that democracy is inferior to a Charlie Brown dictatorship.
Lucy, prepare the secret ballots.
Now wait a minute! You've all made me the leader, and I'm gonna make the decisions.
It's also a lot more focused than 90% of all the Peanuts specials, or any of the theatrical releases. A lot of that is that they were able to narrow down the cast by sending them off to camp, so we don't have to deal with fucking Violet or Patty, or Fives. Ah, but Roy's here, shit. So if you take anything away from this video, it's that you should watch Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown, right after you watch The Girl in the Red Truck. I don't care what the community tier list says, this is way better than Bon Voyage, Charlie Brown. And lastly, I want to mention For Auld Lang Syne. I want to say that it's cocky as fuck to just call it For Auld Lang Syne. That's some big dick confidence to not include any brand recognition, and I was genuinely impressed. But then they changed it to be Snoopy Presents for Auld Lang Syne, which makes no sense because Snoopy isn't presenting shit. As of writing and recording, this is the most recent Peanut special, released in December 2021 exclusively for Apple TV+.
What did I just get myself into?
I wasn't really sure where to put this one. I was kind of waiting to see if it got a lot of attention, but it looks like no, it didn't, and it probably will stay below the Raskin line, at least for now.
Wait a minute. Uh-oh.
Peanut specials based on recurring holidays tend to have a longer shelf life, but the fact that this is exclusively streaming and not in a cable primetime slot means that it has the potential to fade into the background of Apple TV, right behind Schmigadoon and Mythic Quest. I had to seek this out too. Apple TV wasn't advertising this. I was already watching the Peanut specials when I found out that they were releasing a new one. And if I wasn't searching for them, I probably wouldn't have been in the right circles to hear the news about this one getting released. I was even more intrigued that they were doing another New Year's plot. Yes, there is a plot to this one, and a very tight one actually. The plot is that Lucy's grandmother is coming to town for Christmas, but then cancels, probably because of COVID. Plot never says why, so naturally Lucy assumes it's because she's a crabby bitch who psychologically abuses people. But instead of self-actualizing, she decides to throw a big New Year's gala to prove that she's lovable. She rents this big theater with all the money she made from her unlicensed therapy practice, and she sets up all the other kids as vendors. Obviously, it all goes horribly, and Lucy feels bad. The special tries to set up this lesson about the meaning of Auld Lang Syne in the same way the Christmas special is about the meaning of Christmas, but it doesn't really get traction with me in the same way. Like, what does this drinking song from the 17th century mean to you?
Auld Lang Syne is a heartfelt reminder that we should never forget our friends.
But Linus and Charlie Brown make her feel better, and all her friends show up to party at her house. For the first time ever, there's a B plot. My god, they've invented so much plot, there's 2 of them. I cannot think of another time a Peanut special had a genuine, fully formed, grade A, Energy Star rated B plot. Snoopy's family comes to town. Wait, Spike, Olaf, Andy, Bell, Marbles. Where the fuck are Molly and Rover? I guess they died like Rerun. Spike is trying to take a family photo. This is such a difficult task that no human or animal on this earth could do it. It would take a divine being of unimaginable power to—
Hey, Snoopy!
Oh, Franklin did it. Okay, thanks, bro. This one feels different in a significant way, and because of both that and it's recently, it didn't feel right to lump it in with the rest of the ratings. I think the art style is part of that reason. These outline characters on these matte backgrounds. I think this is also one of the few specials that didn't lift stories directly from the comics, which I think is the right way to go if Apple keeps making these. The biggest difference for me is just how focused and tight the plot actually is. A Peanut special is, historically, about 30% plot and then 70% dicking around. But that dicking around typically contains the more memorable sequences of the specials. This has nothing to do with Thanksgiving, it's just a fun thing that happened. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think the modern Peanut specials are too focused. It's also more sentimental than any other Peanut specials. Many of the characters were acting in an unfamiliar way. Lucy doesn't really work as a central character because she's just mean. So for this one, they really ramped up her insecurities and made her and everyone else a lot friendlier. Everyone seems to just get along like a typical children's show. Charlie Brown has this line at the end.
I remember that no matter how bad things may seem, I can always rely on my friends.
Meanwhile, one special ago, Charlie Brown's friends are like,
Blockhead! Blockhead! Blockhead!
Here comes old Charlie Brown. Good old Charlie Brown. Yes, sir. How I hate him.
There's definitely a dissonance between this and the previous specials. It's hard to feel bad for Lucy in the way you can feel bad for Charlie Brown. This is a show directed primarily at children, so I can't come down too hard on it for being a children's show. I did walk away with a positive feeling. I mean, I gave it a 7 out of 10 on Letterboxd, holy crap. I would recommend this, but I have to say that I feel politically motivated to do so. I really do think this could go either way, where we either start seeing new Peanut specials, or nobody watches this and they go back to making the Snoopy in Space show. I mean, if this doesn't do well, we might not see another Peanut special for another 10 years, or maybe never. So if you have Apple TV, you should watch this. Even if you don't want to, just put it on in the background while you do other stuff. Number 1. It's Charlie Brown's All-Stars.
If he drops it, let's all kick him.
Charlie Brown's All-Stars is to baseball what Ted Lasso is to soccer.
Thank God, because Ted Lasso sucks.
It's about a well-meaning guy who doesn't know anything about the sport he's coaching, trying to make his team happy. Charlie Brown's team is so upset about never winning a game that they decide to do the big quit. and they officially decide to never play baseball again. Unless, of course, you can get some uniforms, Charlie Brown.
Will we be able to have lace cups?
So with the stakes set as low as possible, Charlie Brown tries to keep his team together. Linus approaches Charlie Brown with an offer from Mr. Hennessy at the hardware store, who offers to buy the team uniforms and sponsor them in an actual league instead of just sandlot games. Linus brings Charlie Brown this offer, and then tells him to forget about it in the exact same sentence.
You better forget it, Charlie Brown. See you later.
Like this was your idea, jackass! So yes, this special from 1966 is ripping off Spring Training Charlie Brown from 1996, which is very impressive. But I don't even mind because they play it so differently. In this one, Mr. Hennessy doesn't condition the uniforms on the promise that they win a game. He will give Charlie Brown the uniforms with no strings attached, but he has to kick the girls off the team, and also no dogs. I think it's called the Air Bud rule. Ladies and gentlemen, will you please welcome to the floor, Woke Charlie Brown.
I couldn't tell the girls in Snoopy they couldn't be on the team.
So while Charlie Brown crushes the patriarchy, he promises the team uniforms if they keep playing for him. Obviously, he's completely fucked, but he convinces himself that if his team wins one game, they won't be upset when he tells them he canceled the uniforms. He doubles down, and they almost win the game, but Charlie Brown's ego is writing checks his body can't cash.
Say, you don't think Charlie Brown will try to steal home, do you?
Never. Not even Charlie Brown would do anything that stupid.
I wonder if I should try to steal home.
So he fails, the team loses, and he has to tell everyone they didn't get uniforms. So they all storm off, understandably, when Linus, the dick that he is, finally speaks up that Charlie Brown only turned down the uniforms to keep the girls on the team. And we get the very first incarnation of base Schroeder.
You girls are very thoughtless. Don't you think Charlie Brown has feelings? All of you are the most thoughtless bunch I've ever known. You don't care anything about Charlie Brown. He's been loyal to you because he thinks you're his friends. But do you ever act like friends? No. Those uniforms meant as much to Charlie Brown as they did to you. Probably more.
But like, take it easy on them, Schroeder. They only just found out. So they destroy Linus's blanket because he's a piece of shit and make Charlie Brown a uniform just for him. It's really cute. I love this one. This is one of the most focused specials. It's one of the funniest, in my opinion. I actually laughed a lot at this.
The slow ball's working pretty well today, Charlie Brown. Let's fool this next guy. Give him your fastball.
I've been giving them my fastball.
Not as hard as that tree thing, but I definitely found the sequences entertaining. The animation is also really good. It really does feel like they're coming off that high of a Charlie Brown Christmas. I think that it's on par with the top tier specials, like Christmas or The Great Pumpkin. It's actually great, and not just for weird reasons that only I enjoy, like every other special on this list. It makes me a little sad that I don't think they kept up the same energy throughout the series. Like, what the fuck, guys? You hit it out of the park 3 times in a row. Why didn't you just keep doing that? The themes of Peanuts are pretty simple. The value of trying. It's okay if you lost the ball game, or lost a spelling bee, or if you keep getting shot down by the Red Baron, because it doesn't matter to your value as a person. I think that's why I was so drawn to do a video about the forgotten Peanut specials. Each of these specials represents a failure in some way, some more than others. But I think we can say that they are more below average Peanut specials than above average ones. Yes, I know that's mathematically impossible, but is it fair to call the Peanuts primetime series a failure? Honestly, I don't know. I mean, I'm talking about it, but no one else is gonna watch this video. Maybe one day someone will make a video about the forgotten Big Beak Entertainment videos. I don't know. All I know for sure is that Daryl is a fucking piece of shit, and Molly should get on that bus to Tucson and never look back.